What's up everybody, welcome to another class for the Elite Video Membership. What we're doing today is going to be a very short, efficient, and strength-focused warm-up for runners. Runners are notorious for both skipping a warm-up and also skipping strength work, so we're trying to give you something quick that you can integrate right away and we'll progress on it in future classes. All you're gonna need is something to put between your knees. So this ball is pretty perfect, a yoga block, a football, something a little bit smaller, a basketball might be too big. And then we're gonna just need a wall. So that's all we got. Let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing that we're gonna start off in is this classic kind of 90-degree position. Know that we could change the angles a little bit. So if you did want to go a little bit further away from the wall or a little bit closer, that is an option. It's extremely important that when you're looking at your feet, you're seeing that there's a straight line across your big toes and a straight line across your heels. What most people are going to want to set up with something like this, try to make sure that you're as even as can be. Feet can be a little bit wider, a little bit closer in. Again, that's just another detail that we can mess around with. We're gonna put that ball or whatever you have between your knees, and then we're just gonna work on taking a couple of big, deep breaths. When you breathe in, make sure you breathe in through your nose. Exhale fully. And what I want people to do is to put their hands on the ribs. So you're literally gonna get that hand on the rib cage, left side, right side. You can even put your thumb wrapped around so that you can feel the back side. And we want to try to get east and west expansion and definitely posterior expansion. So I want your back to fill up into the ground. As you exhale, your fingers should come closer together. So I should see your fingers actually coming together as you're exhaling, so your rib cage is closing in the front. Most people are gonna have a really hard time getting the ribs down and in and getting some oblique to really fire. So if that's you and you've noticed that, you can really put a little bit of extra focus on it. Now let's add our hamstrings. So what I want you to do is find the hamstrings just above the knee by pulling down on the wall, like a suction cup pulling down. You should feel those fire up right here. Then we're gonna find our hamstrings under our butt, and we're gonna actually shoot our knees up about an inch off of the ground, which should also lift your coccyx or the bottom of your spine off of the ground. We're not necessarily crunching or trying hard to push into the ground. Focus on what's happening at the hamstring so that that's what we're really getting the sensation on. You're gonna continue your breathing, so you're still going in through your nose, out through your mouth. Now what I'd like you to do is actually work on holding your exhale. So as soon as you get as empty as possible, you should feel your ribs down and in. And we wanna do at least a 3-second hold, 5-second hold, where those first 2 seconds are extremely uncomfortable, and then you're able to really relax into it. You might even feel a kind of a postural stability, or some of that deep musculature, your diaphragm settles in and allows you to maintain that position. If you get to the 4th second and you start getting to like extreme panic mode where you're gonna have to reset yourself, let your ribs up, let your butt drop, stop before that so you can stay consistently through this. Continue that and now add a reach. So we're gonna go ahead and keep our elbows relatively soft. They don't need to lock out. I don't care about your triceps. I actually care more about you getting your shoulder blade to reach up. You're trying not to over shrug. If you do shrug, it's okay. But if you notice that you're shrugging and actually using your neck, especially to breathe in, you can just let your arms come down a little bit so that you're reaching more so than elevating. Try to maintain the tension of the hamstrings. If you're doing this right, especially if you haven't done it a lot, this should be tiring. Your hamstrings should be working very hard right now and you should actually be feeling them. So let's get 3 more breaths like that and let's work on putting it all together. You're feeling hamstrings, you're getting air into your sides and your back so your ribs are expanding and not just your belly. You're breathing in through your nose, you're getting the breath holds. We're basically doing all those things together. And you can keep that reach up. We want to see our neck relatively relaxed, so try not to see, I'm talking, but if I would like to see that there's not a lot of tone in your neck. And if you are someone doing that, maybe bring your arms down a little bit so that you're not reaching up. That could be a problem that's causing you to do that. Take note of which side feels differently, and let's get 1 more breath in this position. Good. Another thing that you could have done is have more of a relaxed exhale, so a foggy sigh, depending on whether your rib cage is naturally wide or narrow. That could be something to play around with. Both of them are options. Staying up, we're gonna go into our pelvic kind of slides. So when we run, we actually have one knee going forward, one knee going back, or you can think about the hip, or even more specifically, we can think about the pelvis needs to have that motion. So that's really all we're doing here. Now your obliques are gonna play a role as they work across your body like this. So as you pull one up, if you start to see some stuff happening here, that's okay and that's good, especially if you can find both obliques really well. What I don't wanna see is my shoulders moving or anything else, because obviously that means I'm not keeping everything stable in my midline if everything up top is actually moving. So what I want you guys to do is keep that tuck. If at any point you lose your ribs, get them back with a good exhale. And I want you to just pull your left hip into the socket. So what I'm doing is I'm tensioning into the ball, trying to squeeze it that way towards my midline, aka adduction. So I'm adding to my midline, and I'm pulling it down into the socket. So what you should see is my right knee stays up to the ceiling while my left knee comes down, and this should be burning big time your groin. Okay. Now this is going to help us get off of our right side and get onto our left side using our adductor, and eventually we'll integrate the glute too. So hold that for 3 more seconds. Try to breathe through it. Try to see if you can get good exhales. Your neck can be wherever you want. It doesn't have to look down like I'm doing. That's just for what I'm doing for talking. And then you want to switch sides and try to do it nice and smooth. So now you can feel your right groin, which is generally tighter on more people. And we want to be able to maintain that tuck. You're still pulling down on the wall, so I'm not letting my hips drop. I'm keeping my lower back right where it started, and I'm just feeling that pull down on the wall through the arch and that adductor working. So hold that for 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Now we're gonna get around 20 reps. So I want you to go ahead and pull down, reverse, pull down. We can reach, we can keep our hands on our ribs. You could even alternate reaching. So as I pull down that way, I'll reach with this arm, I'll reach with that one. Now we're integrating the whole body across. But essentially, I just want you to get 20 reps and work on feeling that relative motion of one side going in one direction, one side going in the other direction. Because we're locked on the wall, my feet stay stationary, and it allows me to really isolate that movement there and get into those muscles with the constraints. As I go ahead and come across my body, maybe the outside of my hip feels a stretch because it's technically adducting, so everything on the outside of my hip might feel a tiny little stretch. There should be no pinching, and we're not really looking for this to be, level 10 Armageddon, even though it is pretty tricky hard and definitely gives you some feels. Okay, so now that we got 20 of those, let's come down for a second, take just a little breather, maybe take a breath or two. Okay, your ribs back down if you lost them. Now what we're gonna do is similar to running when we were just talking about one side reciprocating the other, basically things doing the opposite of each other. Your right arm goes forward, your left arm goes back. We're gonna take that across the body and start to add a reach. We're gonna take one foot off the wall and reach across. So let's get into that. So one more breath on the ground. Whichever one works better for you. Suction cups on the wall. Tuck your butt under you. Shoot the knees up. You're getting that posterior pelvic tilt. Feel your hamstrings. If you don't feel them, give them a little bit of a touch and make sure that they're turned on. Feet should be even again, remember that. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and lift up my right foot, and I'm going to go ahead and reach my right side across. I don't want you to reach up to the ceiling because I want to avoid any shrugging. I actually want you to reach towards the knee. Take one breath, close the left side of the ribs, reach across, slowly put the right foot down, ideally in the same exact spot. Don't overthink it though. Reach across. Next one. Reach across. Next one. Reach across. Next one. Next one. Now we're gonna switch it up, and you're gonna go ahead and reach with the opposite. So here I are on the same side. So here's my left side. Really closing down the left side of my rib cage while I find my left hamstring pulling down. Place that down. It's a good example of what we talk about with options. We want to have the option to do both. Let's do 2 more of those. Last one. Good, gently come all the way down, relax for a second, take a breath. So that was us really working on getting just some reciprocal and even same side movement through the rib cage, the hamstrings, everything from the top to the bottom. Now what I want to do is go into a little bit of a calf raise. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually take this ball away so that you actually have to work a little bit more to keep yourself in line. If you do notice that your feet are falling out on the wall like this when we do this, then put the ball back and that'll be a good option for you as well. So now that I'm here, I'm talking about really integrating a co-contraction like we've talked about in classes before, the idea of getting everything to work together. So we isolate a lot, but we also want to get everything together to work, especially in something like running. So let's go 1 breath. Ribs stay down, suction cups, shoot knees up, find those hamstrings. Try to make sure you're as even as possible here. And now we're gonna do both at the same time and keeping yourself pulling down on the wall with both hamstrings. I want you to bridge up into a calf raise. So now I'm tucking my butt under me, my hamstrings are pulling down, and I'm getting a good push through the ball of the foot. What does it look like when your feet fall out? That's what it looks like. This is not what we want. It looks like an ankle sprain, right? So we want to be able to push through the ball of the foot, drive through it, and pull down with the hamstrings. Most people are going to get very crampy here. Yes, I want you to feel your calves, but if you lose your hamstrings, then we're probably not getting the co-contraction. So try to focus on that. Now from here, I'm going to go ahead and keep my left one fired up as best as I can. Lift, hold, 3, 2, 1. Foot goes down, immediately get contact, hamstring, calf, lift, stay stable. I don't want your knee to fall out. Don't want the foot to fall out. Place that down, immediate contact. As soon as it hits the wall, I'm already ready. Just like when you would hit the ground, you would be ready for the contact. Now let's speed it up a little bit. We're gonna get 10 reps. Do 2 more. Come all the way down to the wall. Try to keep your hamstrings. And now I just want to go ahead and go both of them all the way up. Nice calf raise, push through them evenly. Slowly come down. We're just going to get 5 reps. You're constantly pulling down on the wall. Feel both calves evenly drive through the ball of the foot. Slowly come down. There's 3. Slowly come down. 4. Last one. 5. Make your way all the way down. Relax for a second. So that calf raise is really going to bring everything together. Now, we want to really progress it by actually getting you to stand up because you're going to be running standing, right? So let's go ahead and stand up real quick and start working on pronation of the foot for a quick drill. When we're talking about running, it's really important to consider maintaining your center of mass. This is going to lead to efficiency and it's going to lead to more power output because of just the biomechanics lining up for you. Now, in order to maintain your center of mass running, you do need your knee to go over your toes, and we need to have ankle dorsiflexion. Now, in order to ankle dorsiflexion, or the knee moving over the toe, the foot needs to be able to drop to the ground, which is called pronation.
Oftentimes people think, hey, you have high arches, you're so lucky. But the truth is, having a really high arch, especially if it's rigid, doesn't allow you to get to the ball of your foot, doesn't allow you to push off, so it actually becomes an issue. So this is something that really hits home for me that I've been working on a lot. Now I want you guys to really work on this too. So you're gonna go ahead and get into this little split stance. We wanna think about our center of mass. So if I draw a straight line down, now my center of mass is basically through my heel. I wanna feel myself really heavy on my heel, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and bend my knee forward and allow the rest of my body to also come. A bad one looks like this. Notice how I'm leaving behind my rib cage and driving into my knee. I should feel this in my knee. So if I keep my hip back a little bit more and I let everything come forward, what I'm looking to have happen is not stay rigid and pulled out to the side like this and rolled out, but I actually want the ball of my foot to drop to the ground, pronating and allowing my knee to go over my first or second toe. Super simple. When you come back, lift all your toes, so just your heels on the ground, heel stays down, and then you're just gonna roll into the ball of the foot. Again, thinking about everything staying lined in. We're just gonna do around 20 reps, okay? So as you come back, lift, heel comes down, boom. Keep that going. I'm not even gonna count. We're just gonna do around 20. Make sure that you're not feeling it in the knee. If you feel a little bit of a stretch in your ankle, that's great. Make sure you feel your heel the whole time. So we're staying heavy on the heel. It'll make such a big difference when you get it. And we're not leaving our ribs behind. Very simple. Knee moves forward, come all the way back. Knee moves forward, come all the way back. As I come forward, I'm going from the heel to the outside of the foot, and then I'm getting to the ball of the foot as it drops down. And that's extremely important in both walking and running, so make sure that you really get that. You don't have to overthink about it, it's gonna happen for you, especially when you're doing drills like this that'll really set that up for success. Good. Okay, let's do 3 more. And you're gonna take note of which one's better, which one's worse. Say you were someone who just can't feel it. You're losing your heel, you're not heavy. You could totally just drive your heel back, go as far as you can, stay here, and eventually you'll probably feel a little sink of your foot getting to the ground and being able to be there. So now let's switch sides, and this will be a little bit easier for you to see the inside of my foot. So here I am on this side again, shifted over to my left a little bit. You can think about that too. Center of mass is basically over my heel. I can hinge if I needed to, but for what I'm looking for, I just want to be relatively straight up. Knee stays soft the whole time. Heavy on the heel, I drive forward and I let the inside of my foot actually drop to the ground. As you come back, lift the toes, lift the heels so you get the extensors to fire, and let that drive down there. Come all the way back. You can lift the toes and not the forefoot if you want. That's another option. And we're just gonna do around 20 of them, so just keep these going. If you are someone, again, that can't really feel it, you're not able to keep the heel down, just go as far as you can. If you're doing them, just keep doing your reps. Stay here if you can't feel it. Keep that heel really heavy. Most people are gonna have a hard time with their left heel feeling the ground, and then let that knee fall forward. The more your knee falls forward, the more you might need a hinge. So if we're thinking still center of mass, we can think about that too. Just another way to kind of do the exact same thing in a different manner. So let's go ahead and say that we're gonna get about 4 more, and hopefully you guys got somewhere between 10 to 20, just really quick. Once you get the hang of this, you can turn this whole entire routine into 10 minutes, 15, 12 minutes, something really easy. Good. All right, nice. So that should get our foot pronating, and it'll really help for how we're gonna finish with actually pushing off of the ball of the foot in a standing way into the wall isometric. Now what I wanna do is work on that single leg stance and really think about hip extension. So we're gonna start off on our on one foot. Go ahead and splay the toes. I want you to really soften your knee, just like we just did. It doesn't have to be max end range dorsiflexion, so I don't need to try to get as far as I can, but I do want to have a good soft knee and knee bend. Now I want to think about my pelvis right here, this ASIS, and I want to think about really presenting it forward. So I'm basically shoving it forward, AKA my hip is extending and my knee is not locking out and going back. Now I'm going to slowly lift my right foot. Doesn't necessarily need to be all the way up high. You can just hold it right here, wherever you want. But the goal here is to squeeze everything you can out of your butt and drive through your foot. So I want you to be driving through your foot, almost like you're dragging it under you so you can propel yourself into the next step. Feel your arch working really hard. Make sure that you're really short footing. Think about dragging the ground back towards the heel and squeezing your butt as much as possible, trying to stay as stable as possible, as hard as you can. Really ramp that up. Let's get to 10 seconds more. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. If you feel a stretch in the front, that's great. 2, 1, relax. You should have felt your foot and your butt fire up big time there. Okay, now we're on the other side. Okay, same thing, get a little bit of a splay, soft knee, shift into your right hip. So if you're someone who's off to the other side, on either side, make sure you get over to here. Your knee doesn't necessarily need to come out, even though it definitely could. We really want to think about keeping it in or in line with the rest of our body. Now from here, it looks good, but there's really just so much more hip extension that can be had. So make sure that you can really drive that forward, and let's just hold. Now, as we're holding this 30 seconds, you're already in it. What I want you to consider is that when we're running, or doing a lot of athletic things, we want to get full hip extension before we even dip into the knee, which is what I'm teaching you right here. So if you watch a runner, they're going to extend their hip fully before it even straightens out. When you watch someone jumping, they're going to get into their hips before they get into their knees. So this is what we want to really program. And then when we need to get into our knees can be strong too with all the different things that we do in our Elite Video membership anyway. So let's hold for 10 more seconds, try to drive as much hip extension out of it as possible. If you end up leaning back, it's not the end of the world as long as you don't lift up your ribs. So same thing, center of mass. What we're really thinking about going forward, and you'll see that in our next drill anyways, is that everything works off of each other. 3, 2, 1, slowly put that down, shake that off. Let's go back over to the wall and transition for our last drill in this routine. Now, tying everything together with the propulsion. So that's the idea of we're actually pushing off of one foot to get to the other, because that running is single leg stance like we've been talking about. Now, what we want to be able to do is really have our foot spiral into the ground through the whole hip. That's why we just never shut up about rotation and getting everything to really work together in that rotational manner. So what I want you to do is use the wall as an isometric. So we're going to set up here. Let's start off with our left foot. We're just going to do 30 seconds on one side and then switch. But I basically want to have a little bit of distance between me and the wall. I want you to go fingertips. If you need to, you can go wrists, but I want you to go fingertips. I want you to reach, so we're not like this. You're actually pushing the wall away from you. And then you're going to go ahead and shift into your left side. So from that back view, I don't want to be on my right. I don't even want to be in the middle. I actually want to be in my left side. My knee is going to stay in line. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and think about I landed on my heel, and now I'm going to go ahead and go from that heel to the outside of the foot and then get to the big toe and push. So I've gotten from the heel strike, outside of the toe, and now I'm pushing off to get to my next one. So I should still be relatively lined up since I haven't gotten to my right side, but I might be a little bit more to the right than I was before. My knee is soft, and I'm thinking about dragging the ground under me as I propel myself off of that big toe, that first metatarsal, and you're just holding here. Try not to over squeeze the shoulder blades, try to keep your ribs down, and really think about everything stacked on top of each other with your butt driving through your big toe. We're gonna hold this for 20 more seconds. If you can, ramp this tension up, make it strong. Imagine that you're using power and you're trying to really put a hole in the wall. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come all the way down, switch sides. Line yourself up. If you want to do a little toe splay, we can do that. Again, I hit the ground on my heel, so I'm shifted into there. I'm going to go ahead and come forward. I'm going to roll to the ball of the foot, and then I'm going to press off of the ball of the foot. Drive through the wall. Knee stays soft, it's not locked out. I'm relying on my hip extension like we just did in that single leg stance, not trying to push the wall away from me with my quad. If I need to lean into it more, I can lean into it more. Make sure you're staying on that ball of the foot. This side's definitely harder than me, I can feel it already. Keep pushing. 15 seconds left. Try to reach a maximum effort if you can. Remember, you're pushing yourself forward, not up. We are going up to an extent, but I want you to think about driving through the wall. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly come down, relax for a second. If you wanted to double up and do more reps, that's perfectly fine. All this makes a ton of sense to do more than once, but we want to keep it short so you can go right into your run. Go for a run right now, do some athletic stuff, play basketball, do something like that. Let us know how it feels in the comments below. Ask any questions you need. Tell us about it in the Facebook group. We appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.